So you want to understand what's going on with society, civilization, and the different ways that people behave in groups and as individuals and all that stuff. The best way to do this that I've found for a framework is spiral dynamics. And I'm going to make this video just to explain an introduction to this concept, very interesting concept, which has existed for a long time, but very few people know about. If you are into psychology and you've done things like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's a similar sort of deal with different stages and different sort of things, but it's a little more complex and nuanced and, dare I say it, a little more spiritual. So my name is Eric and I am an entrepreneur and musician, and I think I will offer both the business perspective, the sort of managing people perspective, as well as the artistic sort of spiritual expression of the human soul perspective in this whole explanation. So let's begin. The spiral dynamics is a system that was developed by a man named Clare Graves a long time ago, and there's been many great people who have made videos about this on YouTube already, most notably Leo from actualize.org. I'm a big fan of his work and think that he's a really good teacher, and the way that he can just sort of make these videos. So watch that. I'll put a link to the crash course to spirals dynamic that he made, crash course to spiral dynamics that he made, and this will be my sort of similar type of crash course for people who are into listening to me talk and people who are into my vibe as an entrepreneur, musician, world traveler and stuff like that. Now, world traveling has helped me see a lot of this stuff in very clear sort of ways, because you travel around the world and you see different patterns of different types of consciousness, different types of societies, relationships, and all that stuff. So without further ado, here is on the screen here. This is spiral dynamics, basically. It's the different stages, basically. So survival is beige. Let's just make sure I shared the right screen here. Yeah, screen number 1. Yep, okay. So survival is beige. That's like the heroin junkie stage. I just need to get my stuff. Junkie. It's like the most urgent and selfish form of consciousness where you can only think about one thing. Next up on the spiral is purple, which is the small group collective. Think of a tribe in the Amazon, as they always say. Think of actually, I find that being on tour with my band, we get very much into this purple stage where you're a small group, small tribe, collective that's sort of, just running around and doing its stuff, and without any sort of huge amount of order to it, but it is the first collective stage. Then you have red, which is power and energy and ego, dominance. I'm just going very shortly over the stages and then we'll go more in depth. Then you have order, blue. This is where you start to have a society, civilization, families that work together to build the town, the village, the country, all that stuff. This is where you have nationalism. This is where you have all of that stuff. Success is orange. Orange is the stage where you have people working hard because they know it's going to make them rich. They know it's going to make them successful. They know that it's going to pay off, and they're trying to do as much as possible for themselves to succeed. The mentality of success. Then you have green, which is defined here as community. So once you go through success, you can have all the money in the world, but green will show you that it's kind of lonely to have lots of money if you don't have, shared values of people around you who you're sharing the stuff with, and that you're making the lives of other people around you better. So it's like a very humanitarian stage. Most of the sorts of green things that you see these days would be on this stage. That's the end of tier 1 thinking. Tier 2 thinking, you go into yellow, which is systems thinking, the sort of conversation that we're having now, where you look at all the people on this planet and you look at the systems that they're in and the stages that they're at, the types of decisions that they're making, and the types of sort of way that they are, and how you want to look at the whole system and make decisions and insights that will help you sort of lead from the top. Then after that, you have the last stage, which is turquoise, which is Om, the universe, one with everything. Non-duality, which is you sort of merging with the universe. So, what does that mean for us here in the 21st century? It means that there's all these different countries around the world. There's all these different people around the world, and all these different fragments of consciousness that are a part of these different stages. Now, what's the key concept? It might sound really abstract right now, but the key concept is, in order to survive, we need to work together. We need to work together to make everything in civilization run. And the other thing is we also need leaders at the same time. So we also need leadership. So there's people who follow and there's people who lead. And basically, different societies will at their core nurture different and reward different types of people. So the key concept is individualism versus collectivism. So individualism would be sort of like me, like the heroin junkie at Beige. Me, I need, and the first one is Beige, and it's purely individualist, selfish, blah, 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 blah. They will do anything in the moment to get what they need at any cost. Now, when you get to Yellow, which is the highest individualist stage, it's a very evolved sort of like me as an individual on the top of this great civilization society. I can look down at all the different stages and make certain adjustments to the way that I'm behaving so that I can be a leader of this civilization. So those are the two examples. In between, you have two other individualistic stages. You have Red, which is the pure ego, like a warlord, a criminal, who will just use their power to take as much advantage of a situation as possible and dominate. And then you have Orange, which is the success one, where you're going to do everything in your power to make as much money as possible so that you can have as good a life as possible, so that you can have the biggest house possible. So those are individualist stages. And you'll see that on this spiral dynamics, basically it goes from individualism to collectivism, Beige to purple, to individualism, Red, to collectivism, blue, to individualism, Orange, to collectivism, green, to individualism, Yellow, but it's really different, and turquoise, again, the collective, just merge with the universe. Merge with the universe. Yes, that's right. So, let's talk about collective ideology. Now, this is something that a lot of people who are indoctrinated into more individualist societies, they don't understand collectivism in the same way because, like, for example, I grew up in a country called Canada, and everything there is about individualist orange thinking. Canada is a place that's predominantly orange in its way of teaching people that you need to do this to be the da 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 da. You need to be an individual to be successful in society, and it's a society of individuals. It's a society of people looking out for number one, themselves, and it's a society where they view relationships with other people as kind of transactional in a sense, like you want to get a job and you're talking with your colleagues because you want them to think that you're good and you can climb the corporate ladder. You want to hook up with women, you want to go and you want to, it's all about you and your experience as an individual. Now, collectivism is something completely different in an opposite sense, because in collectivism, the individual is placed as a secondary thing to the collective society. So that's the main sort of difference right there. The collective society is something that's greater than the individual. The family is something that's greater than the person. And so I live in a country called Serbia most of the time. And in this country, it's very much on the blue stage of collectivism, where people are raised with a sense of being a part of a traditional society. They're raised to sacrifice a lot of their individuality to conform with their family and the wider social circle of friends. And it's possible to achieve a much greater harmony. in this sort of society, and it's possible to achieve much less loneliness, for example, when you're not thinking this is me and this is a wall that I built around myself as an individual, and this is all the other people and I'm number one, and all those people can go fuck themselves. If it's not good for me, I am not doing it, sort of mentality. Whereas like people here in a blue society are more raised with this mentality that it's not so much about you, it's actually more about everybody. It's not so much about your desires. It's actually about balancing the society so that everybody's happy sometimes, always checking in with your family, always checking in with your relatives, always making sure that other people have a good opinion of you, that you appear honorable, that you appear decent, and all that stuff. I mean, that's a concern on the orange stage, but it's a little bit more of a narcissistic concern, let's say. It's a little bit more self-inflated, ego-based, like, what do they think of me? I've got this fancy 40,000 euro watch, they're going to think that I'm, no, but in the blue society, it's like, what do they think of me? Are we able to function as a society, a unit? Can we help each other out? Are we scratching each other's backs? Are we able to, you know, function as a collective society? So this is where civilization is born at stage blue. So yeah, I mean, stage purple is the collective, the first collective one, but it's a very rudimentary sort of small collective. You can't have a civilization at purple because people are not evolved enough to think of pretty much anything like on the level of hey, beyond, hey, this is what the immediate people around me are doing. But on the level of blue, in a civilization, you can think of the nation, you can think of your religion, you can think of some sort of god that's enforcing, you know, its dogma on you, and you can think of all of these uh, sorts of ideas that bind you into this collective identity that you're a part of, you know, whatever it is. I'm Chinese, I'm Serbian, I'm, you know, whatever nation you happen to come from. If you're a part of a tradition, if you're a part of a group of society, chances are you're quite concerned with the opinions of the other people in that society, because that's what will allow you to thrive in that environment. That's what will allow you to sort of succeed. Now, some of the negative things about that is on the stage blue, people tend to be very conformist. They tend to be overly concerned with being normal, and the sort of belief that if you aspire too much, if you're too ambitious, then you're not going to fit in, and you know, people will try to knock you down because you're not fitting. Oh, it's too ambitious. So one of the things to watch when going to stage orange for blue, like you can't really actually, you have to be willing to leave the collective behind. Who cares about what your uncle thinks about your business and you getting that job and going and making a bunch of money in another country? Who cares? You have to leave all that behind because you're doing it for yourself. And so, yeah. The other thing I would say about stage blue is all the other stages, like there's a regression that occurs when people feel threatened at any stage. Like, let's say that in stage blue, a war breaks out and suddenly everything turns to hell, as happened in, you know, the Balkans in the 90s. Suddenly that gets to stage red. You go back to stage red and it's every man for himself, ego-based behavior, violence becomes commonplace. Apparently here in Belgrade, everybody was carrying around guns in the 90s because they just wanted to be able to have that power, my own personal power in my pocket. You know, I got my pistol in my man purse and here we go, don't fuck with me, sort of thing. The traditional society that existed before that in Tito's Yugoslavia was very blue, but when it regressed, when social structures started being threatened, everybody regressed to red. So red is where people are power hungry in a way that they don't care if they're harming other people. Compare that to orange, whereas like corporations will rape the fucking planet, but they're going to follow the rules, and they're going to, you know, not directly kill people, but they'll do some shady environmental shit. So that's where green comes in as the next collectivist stage. Is like once orange has so much success where people are concerned about only their success, only making more money. Yeah, who cares if I put the competition out of business and, you know, they go in debt and get bankrupt? Who gives a shit? I don't care because I'm successful. And that's what, you know, America, the American dream is very orange. It's kind of like, fuck everybody else, but I want them to be okay. I want them to have something to eat. But if I can make more money and have a bigger house than the neighbor and show that off, then that's success in an orange level. So after that, after you make so much money, what's the point anymore? Because you see the harm that you've done in doing these sort of shady deals, individualist behavior, stuff that like pharmaceutical drugs that are sold by pharmaceutical companies that have profit as their main motive, and they just want to, you know, balance the number of lawsuits they can field for destroying people's lives with the number of pills that they can sell so that they get billions and billions of dollars. And, you know, the owners of the pharmaceutical companies have the dopamine in their brain wired to the success of seeing the financial reports of more and more billions, and so they drive that and end up destroying a bunch of fucking people's lives in the process. And so then you get to stage green, which is like, no, wait a second, no, this isn't what life should be about. It's great that we've managed to make a successful economy where everybody can, you know, get up and work a job and have stuff, but this food that they're eating is crappy. The medical system is a scam. Those are the two major issues, I think, always, like food crappy, medicine scam, and also yeah, the medical system, like United States is the biggest. The United States is the example of orange gone wild. It's like costs $300 to see a doctor. You can go in the hospital, break your leg, and get a bill for $10,000. I don't know. I've never lived in that country. I've always lived in countries that had like socialized Medicare by the government. So I don't really know much about that. But I know that, like, for example, the food system. So I think the everything that's wrong with the world is food and medicine. So they give you the poison food, like, you know, lowest quality food that they can sell legally for the highest prices to make the maximum profits. So you're eating stuff that's like passes all the regulation of what decent food needs to be, that's set up by the government and the scientists that work for the government. But it's the lowest quality for the highest cost because they want to make the maximum profit. And so, yeah, then you get sick because you've been eating all this crappy food with all this, like, you know, additives and high fructose corn syrup and all these sorts of different, like, processed things that they market to you with this sort of like exploiting your psychology marketing. This is stage orange. Where do you go after that? I mean, you get fucking sick of it. You've got enough money. You've been in this system. It's made you rich. It's made you fat. It's made you sick. And you want something more humanitarian. That's why you go green. That's why you protest the injustice in the society. That's why you protest the oil pipeline. That's why you protest on behalf of the disadvantaged people of the society who may be disadvantaged because of factors that put them outside of the majority of, you know, people who are running the society. You go green. But it's important to understand that green only happens once you've reached a level of success that orange brings, right? If you don't have anything to eat, say you're at stage blue, you're in a society, the country's poor, you know, you've got what you need basically barely, like by calling everybody in the village, the collective of people, you know, this person's making goat's cheese, this person's growing, you know, cabbage, and this person's, you know, making, you know, meat, and you put it all together, and somehow in the collective you all arrange it, and somehow it all works out that everybody in the village has something to eat. Who cares about green? Like you're still in survival mentality. You're still trying to survive by having a society, or if you're in a war zone, who cares about green? Who cares about the environment? You're just trying to not die. Just trying not to die. So green only comes once you have first of all, a stable blue society that then transitions into an affluent and successful orange society where everybody has opportunity. And then when people see the downside of everybody having opportunity and everybody following their own capitalist dream, trying to get as much money as possible, and then the society just ends up being scam after scam after scam with terms and conditions, and sort of every this plus tax, and people just sort of scamming each other in a slightly sort of backhanded way, but still it's kind of okay because there's regulations, there's social order. But people are getting sick, people are eating junk, people are just sick of all the bullshit, the lies of the media, of the orange and stuff like that. So then you go green. You want organic food. You want to be a little more authentic in the way that you express yourself. You want to be just to the people around you, the whole society. You think, wow, this is so great that we've managed to bring this society to the point where everybody has food. Now let's get them better food so that everybody has a job. Now let's get them more social benefits. Let's get them more equality and stuff like that. And you equalize the society. This is where we are right now in the dialogue in North America. This is where places in Western Europe have been for a while, some of them. Countries like the Netherlands would be a great example of a society that's pretty green, like because they realized that they got like so oranged out. They're like, yeah, okay, everybody's got lots of money. Let's make things better. Let's not stay at this level where it's like capitalism, sort of dog eat dog, like sort of people trying to take money from each other, and then people get incredibly rich, and then everybody else is like poor. You know, there's all sorts of stuff at the capitalist level, but you go into green. Hey, maybe everybody can have a good life. Maybe everybody can be authentic. Maybe everybody can actually make their way in this world in such a way that, there's a certain amount of sustainability here. Maybe. So the healthy manifestations of that, I mean, eating better food and just sort of taking a breath and realizing that we as a civilization have arrived in an era, in a beautiful era, where there's less scarcity, there's less poverty, there's less sort of pain and suffering that comes from the lower stages where people were acting more survival. And you can actually think on a philosophical level on green, you can actually think of how can everybody, it's a spiritual sort of thing, an awakening. The hippie movement was very green, continues to be. um, the whole social justice thing, like wanting to eliminate racism in the society, is very green, and it's a stage that we as a civilization need to go through now before it's too late. Like there's this the orange capitalism that runs around where corporate profit is the prioritization of all be all and end all, and like making money and becoming more efficient, rich, selling more. It has a really devastating effect on this planet. Think of the environment, think of pollution, think of all of these things like that people, if part of you still at orange, you might think this is nonsense, like, but that is a stage where the only reason you think that wanting to save the environment is nonsense is because part of you is still in survival mode, and part of you will just ignore the environment so that you can make more money. But that's a very selfish thing to do, which is quite likely, you know, fucking the future generations of the planet. So we go green now. We go green now as a civilization. Or if people are still in blue, you go orange. So if you're still in a blue society, like the best example of a society going orange, I guess, would be China in the 21st century. All these big cities, people getting successful, lots of rich people, designer goods like Adidas and all these like designer brands that are selling like crazy in China. That's a society going orange, whereas most of it is still blue. The core of the society, the most of the people are still on blue, but the people who are making businesses getting rich are going on orange. And you'll see within the next 20, 30 years, maybe a generation, China will start to go green. Whereas in the US, we're already going green. And in Western Europe already green. Eastern Europe is still very blue, but countries like Poland I see going a bit orange. And every society has a smattering of all the different mentalities, and every person has a smattering of all the different stages within them. So, where does that take us after green? What's after green? Is there life after green? Once you have a society, yeah, green. And see, the problem with the collectivist stages is, to put it very bluntly, there's less ambition in people. There's less people stepping up to lead. We don't lack people to be led. We lack the leaders to lead them, is sort of the stage of, that's a saying from a development seminar, which I took once, which it was at the Ritz Hotel in London. It was with a guy named Dan Pena. It was in 2015 on my birthday, March 28th. And I went there and it was all about stepping up to be a leader. The guy's ridiculous, and hilarious and a little bit frightening and triggering for a lot of people. But check him out. But his game is on stage red. That's how he gets people to move their ass, by being like really aggressive. So you need to have every stage integrated. So you need to have the ability to go through different stages and understand what they're about and manifest them in the appropriate moments. And where does that come from? It comes from an understanding of the whole system. And at what stage do you start to understand the whole system? Stage yellow. That's right. Stage yellow is tier 2 systems thinking. And there's stage yellow and stage turquoise, one individualist, one collectivist. But at this point, the stages, like at yellow, tier 2, there's so much wisdom embedded in the understanding and the lessons from all the other stages that at yellow, you're no longer in it for yourself, but you're in it to be the individual who has the understanding of the whole system of civilization and how it works, and the understanding of how all the different people in all the different stages, fit into your civilization, which if you embody yellow in the right way and you apply the thinking in the right manner, you will end up being a leader if you so choose to be. Because from yellow systems thinking, you're doing just that. You're thinking of systems. And you're thinking of systems that can involve other people. And with your understanding of the other stages, you understand what people at stage blue want. They want to follow instructions. They want guidelines they can follow to achieve the result of fitting into the system. You realize what people at stage orange want. They want opportunity. They want to join your system because that's the way that they, as individuals, can best advance their interests as individuals, make more money, get more successful, get more knowledge, teach themselves more about this, about that, become experts. And what do people at Stage Green want? They want to feel like they're a part of something which is making something exciting, which is making the lives of human beings in general, or they're making lives better. People at Green want to be inspired by values. They want to be inspired by philosophies, by vibes. They want to feel like they're making a difference in the world. And so if you, as the person at yellow, can make a system that takes those types of people and gives them a place where they can express this side of them, then you end up the leader of the system. You end up the leader of the civilization. You can run a government. You can have layers of management. You trust the orange guy to drive the result from the blue people. You trust the green people to sort of make the people who are lower on the spiral feel better and more included in the system, and you feel like there's more of a community. um, I guess there's a place for people who are red in a system as well. There has to be. It's part of the spiral. People who are purple, people who are beige, but it's harder to sort of guide those people with principles and values because they're just so much in the, like, red people are so much in the ego, selfishness, individualism stage. People in purple are so much in the tribe, the people around me. Like when I'm purple consciousness is when I'm on tour with the band in the van. We pull up to the venue, we get out, we do sound check, we eat together, and everything's like the little tribe of 6 people in the band. And it's super, like, lots of fun. But there's lots of policing that I need to do to make sure people show up on time, that they play the music correctly, and I'm seen as like the selfish oppressor from the red stage. This egotistic musician, singer, songwriter who just wants the other band members to play his music. It's very low level, let's say, even though the message that I'm singing in my songs with my band are more on stage green, orange, and yellow, and even turquoise, the higher stages. I don't sing about stage blue very much. Those songs are boring, like this folk music where they just talk about the traditional making of the sausage in the traditional way, the sort of accordion music where it's all the same, all the songs sound the same because everybody in the society is living the same music. Anyways, what's the last stage? Turquoise, transcendence. I mean, do you want to transcend? Do you feel that there's more to life than just running around as a human being, and that there's a consciousness above that you can reach? You can catch a glimpse of it at green and then another glimpse of it at yellow in different ways. In green, it's sort of like a spiritual hippie sort of whoa man sort of vibe where you realize that it's not, life has a rhythm to it. And there's maybe not just it's not just what you thought it was at Stage Orange. It's not just science. It's not just money, profit, ownership of things, materialism. It's like, whoa, man, smoke this joint, and then you're gonna just like, whoa, man. Then you get back and you're at stage green, and okay. But turquoise is the one where you will go and you will just try to understand where your consciousness ends and another person starts. Actually, you're a part of one universe, and you're a part of non-duality is where you merge everything. It's hard to explain, but this is where you have the guru who's just sitting on the mountaintop in nature thinking about life, has sort of like rejected a lot of the things of society because, well, it's all noise. Like, just get rid of the noise. Like this thing that I call the ancient Fudashi meditation. I joke about this because I say it's the ancient Japanese Fudashi meditation. And you just close your eyes and go, repeat the word to yourself: fuck that shit, 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 fuck everything, because it's all noise. It's all. So you come down from this: fuck that shit, fuck that shit, fuck that shit. Nothing, 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 nothing. Cleanse all the energies you've built up, gotten caught at all the stages, and take a deep breath and find just pure consciousness at the turquoise level. So why not? But there's lots of work to be done, lots of conversations to be had. So you want to be at yellow. You want to look at society. You want to look at all the different actors and players in the game, feeling various different types of shame and motivational thoughts and triggers and insecurities that make them wake up every morning and join the society, argue with other people, join the rat race, try to get ahead, try to help other people out, be a part of the society. The whole circus of humanity exists there. And so that's why I would recommend that you try to embody as much as possible. Stage yellow. Turkish is an interesting place to be, but that's like the guy on the mountain who's like, he's out of touch. But stage yellow, moving pieces of society and being the puppet master of all that stuff and knowing what all the different people down there, how they're feeling about life, seeing that people get angry, violent, stage red. That's a part of life that you can't stop. You can't educate them from green if they're in stage red and expect that, you know, a criminal will suddenly see, oh, yes, actually, I need to get rid of single-use plastics in my life. Doesn't work that way. People have to go stage by stage by stage, evolving each little bit of their consciousness. You know, some of me is still very much in orange. Some of me is in blue. Some of me is in red. I can embody that. Especially here in Serbia, it's like you have to assert yourself. In Canada, it was all about being like nice little polite orange and a little bit of green, concern for other people. But you have to embody all of the stages in order to do your business if you want to be a leader in the society. That's how you can be a good boss. That's how to be a good boss, is by listening to other people, understanding their perspective, understanding what the roots of their perspective and the feelings that are associated with them. Do they want to be a part of a collective, or do they want to be an individual? Listen to them and find out, because your management style of them is going to be really different if they're at stage blue or stage orange. Stage orange, you give them incentives. Stage blue, you give them rules and guidelines and reward them for fitting into that. So that's it, folks. It's an artistic view of reality. It's a functional psychological model of how you can actually be around other people and be yourself. Realize where you're at, realize where they are at, and then whatever you're doing in life it will become a lot more clear why you're doing it, and it will become a lot more clear how to do it. Working with different people, working with different ideas, working with different perspectives, listening to contradictory perspectives, reconciling the difference in perspectives and ideas and all of that stuff. It's very important, folks. It's very, very, very important to realize that not everybody is like you, should be like you, or is going to be like you if you explain them enough. You may be smarter than most of the people on this planet already. Does that mean that you can just explain to someone your truth and that they'll suddenly be seeing things exactly as you are? Nope. Different people require different management, require different ideas, require different ideologies so that they can reach their next level. And so what you get from this is a functional map of what that looks like. So thanks a lot, everybody. I'm going to sign off now, and I'll catch you later.